gentlemen, HRASD Insiders, it is Friday, April something, the 9th, I believe. Might be the 8th. I'm here today with Paul Cowley. Paul is the CEO of First Vanadium Corp. I actually looked at First Vanadium as a vanadium deal, I don't know, 3 years ago or something. And they actually have a very good vanadium project, but I just didn't really think that vanadium's price would hold up, which it didn't. That project is also their Carlin Gold Target project. And I'm going to get Paul to walk us through the deck. A couple of things I think are worth mentioning at the start is the vanadium hasn't gone away. It is in fact sitting on top at and near surface. The Carlin targets are essentially below the vanadium targets, and I just want to be clear that I don't view this as being it's the gold target's not a consolation prize. It's just not something that they were going to go after originally. It was picked up for the vanadium, but they have brought in Dave Matheson, he's very well known in Nevada. I mean, I've crossed paths with him before. He's really the guy that assembled the projects and assembled the targets for Gold Standard. He's got a few discoveries in Nevada to his credit as well. As pretty much his entire career has been in the Carlin trend. And I know Dave and Paul got together, and Dave was pushing the idea of this as a target. They have done some work. They did some drilling last year. They put a few holes into it. There wasn't a home run with those holes, but those holes have generated a much stronger target, I think, with much better underpinning. So this is as you guys know, I like my drill specs, and this is a straight up drill spec. First Vanadium is doing a financing. It's not announced yet, but they're doing a 40-cent financing, most of which is already lined up, that will essentially pay for the next phase or two of work on this. And so with that kind of long introduction, Paul, can you kind of just walk us through the deck and explain why you and Dave, and I did talk to Dave Matheson yesterday, and Paul's not exaggerating when he says Dave is pumped with the targets. He's definitely pumped with the target.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Eric, and thank you, everyone. Yeah, so First Vanadium has been focused for basically 3 years on the vanadium thing, and because it was an easy, low-hanging fruit for us. But then, yeah, we connected with Dave Matheson while I was doing that work down on the vanadium, and we connected very, very well on the geological side as well. And Dave identified this target. He'd identified this 20 years ago, but no one had taken the crack at it. So we've pivoted from the vanadium. The vanadium asset is still very, very much of substance, and we do have a PEA on it, but it's not economic in these prices. I think eventually it will be, maybe more on the shorter term than we expect. But we've gained this tremendous Carlin style vanadium, a large scale Carlin style gold system underneath that Dave conceptualized, and now has come to fruition. And it's a very, very substantial one. As Eric said, we haven't got a home run yet, but we have a lot better idea now with the 7 holes that we have in it. This has all the ingredients that Dave's seen in other mines in the trend. And now we have the IP that's given us direction of basically mapped out the plume of sulfides that gives us where the root system is. So it's pretty amazing, and it's a good size one. So let me just proceed with it. So this is a vanadium project on surface, and then underneath it, somewhere around 300 meters, is the start of the gold system right below the vanadium deposit. So and this is just sort of a quick thing on the vanadium thing is a PEA level, and it underpins our asset base. So it's basically I won't say much about it in this presentation here, but because there's a lot on our website, but there's basically over $3 billion US in the ground at current prices of vanadium. So it is a substantial thing, but we're not obviously getting a lot of credit for it right now. What we're getting the credit for is this awesome gold target, and we think we have a very legitimate chance of making the discovery. And that's where you know, at that kind of stage of a junior, for the discovery stage, is where you really want to be just prior to that. And I think we're poised in that position, so that makes it a great opportunity. We're very unique. We're in Nevada. We're focused in Nevada, and not only in Nevada, but in the best part of Nevada. We're in the Carlin Gold Trend, so it has a tremendous infrastructure and geological context, as everyone knows. So this is really unique geologically and as an investment opportunity, having a double play, basically two stack system with the vanadium above and the gold below. And the vanadium is as I mentioned, it's the largest, highest grade primary vanadium resource in North America. The team is tremendous. We're dedicated professional engineers and geologists that have worked for major mining companies before, major projects with them. And right from discovery to building mines, and two geologists in the group that have made gold deposit discoveries. So and Dave is obviously a principal one there. 10 deposits between myself and Dave, and in excess of 14 million ounces in our career. So you know, we've got very capable, accomplished people that are directing this. So our near-term focus obviously is in the gold opportunity. We're looking for a high-grade discovery underneath the vanadium, but eventually, you know, there is this great opportunity of being a vanadium producer from that resource, that vanadium resource. But that's a longer-term vision right now. Our next 2 years is going to be completely focused on the gold target here. Quick look at our cap structure and our share performance. Really strong, I think. Under 58 million shares. Right now, we've got about $300,000 in cash, but we're in the process right now of doing the financing that we haven't. We'll be announcing next week. But you can see the performance since we basically pivoted from the vanadium to gold. All of this performance is on the gold aspect, our funding and our drilling, and then in the at the beginning of November, when we basically declared that we found this large scale system. We're trading right now at about 48 cents. So, and our financing's at 40 cents with a 55-cent half warrant for 3 years. And lots of good volume. You can see good, on average, about 150,000 shares trading a day. So good liquidity as well. So good, solid company and structure, performance, and length. So, so shifting to the gold, as I mentioned before, got accomplished geologists that have made the gold deposit discoveries. And Dave is really the principal here. He's the authority on the Carlin Trend in our group. Worked for Newmont excessively and with great curiosity and in exploration, not in production, and also with Gold Standard Ventures. I'll mention that a little bit later, but yeah, he's as Eric's mentioned, he's a bit of a legend and made a number of gold deposit discoveries just because he's been thorough and curious and looked at so much in that trend that he has such judgment and to go forward. So we're extremely lucky to have him involved in our team. So turning to the project itself, you can see in the top right where we are in the state of Nevada, in the Carlin Trend, and also then locally here, we're very, very close to the town of Carlin. We're only 6 miles south of Carlin, and which has a rail hub. And the towns of Elko and Carlin are, of course, have all the vendors and service providers for the mining and exploration business. So tremendous right in mining central here, and literally 13 miles away from Gold Quarry, which would be right about here. So tremendous infrastructure and geological advantage there, of course. Turning to the geological side, there's the state of Nevada with the trends, gold trends that everyone knows about, and the Carlin trend is right here. And it's such a prolific, that's the largest trend, prolific gold trend in the United States, in excess of 100 million ounces of gold produced from there, and another 100 million in reserves and resources. Still lots of deposits to be found, and like Dave, and that's quoted from Dave. The Newmont Barrick are producers. They're just doing exploration around their deposits. They're not really exploring for new deposits. Guys like ourselves are doing that kind of work. And of course, that's a great exit strategy for us to get bought out by them at a great premium, being right there around them. I'll also mention on the Battle Mountain Eureka trend that we do have a property that we picked up from Dave Matheson down in this area here, down in the Cortez area, which I'll briefly mention in this talk too. So we have really focused on Nevada and gold, and away from the vanadium at the moment. So there's Dave right now at the first drill site for the gold, and on this figure it shows the 50-mile stretch of the geology that they put together for the Carlin trend. And because he had access to all the drill holes, not only from Newmont but also Barrick, because they were talking about joint ventures for the last 20 years, so he had access to all those drill holes, and he had such curiosity that he developed a true understanding of and made some very significant revolutionary ideas about these deposits while he was with Newmont, and basically encouraged them to go underground as well, which now is about 80–90% of the gold that comes out of Nevada is these rich deposits that are at depth, which we're endeavoring to go after too. In the central part of the trend, Dave's involved in hitting discovering the root system of the Gold Quarry deposit. Newmont didn't even know about it, and he wanted, from his exploration group, put a hole in the bottom of their pit, and their first hole hit 800 feet of 7-gram material, and just opened up the understanding of these types of deposits. And he's that kind of a pioneer, and thinking outside of the box kind of a guy. There's many other examples of his work with Newmont and expansion of resources. On this left-hand side of that map, that's where Dave made a lot of his discoveries in the South Carlin trend, in what people call the Rain or Railroad area. That's where Gold Standard Ventures is. That's where Rain is, where he made deposit discoveries as well for Newmont, and that's where we are. So we're going to go there in this next slide. There's a look down at there's the town of Carlin right here, and this area of the southern Carlin trend. This area here is the Gold Standard Ventures properties, and the red blotches are mines and deposits, many which Dave was involved in the discovery of. 9 million ounces of gold right in this area here. And you can see the alignment of these deposits along these north-south and northwest trending structures, which are basically the plumbing system of the Carlin trend, which we're a part of. We're in this area here where we're on a north-south trending structure. Also mention these on the right-hand side are gravity anomalies that show the coincidence to these structures and mines. And that's we have that same signature on our property, which excited Dave a lot, and that's what sold him to come and join our group and go after this target. So one interesting thing that I will mention, and this is sort of an evolution of this, is a lot of this rock in this area here is rock that, or I should say that the drilling that we've done has shown some very interesting revelations, in that it has identified the same rock units that are up the trend in Gold Quarry, Gold Strike, and not the ones that are hosting these deposits here. These are in Devil's Gate. It's a different unit higher up. But what we're seeing in our drilling is that we've actually have the same stratigraphy at much better at reasonable depths that is really kind of revolutionary in this new trend of and the opportunity here, not only in our property but around our property for new discoveries. I'm going to go to our property here, Dave. These are some exposures that I misread. They're Carlin style gold exposures up to 1.5 grams, and I didn't think that they were very significant, but Dave thought they were very significant in not them as the target, but as leakage from a much bigger system at depth. And the other thing that was very, very unique and interesting is when we were drilling the vanadium resource, this is a cross section, and the vanadium is right at surface here. We didn't realize, but with all the data that we collected, that there's a large scale hydrothermal alteration system of dolomite that's basically 2 kilometers long and 200 meters thick. It's one of the issues why we had in our vanadium that we had to deal with, but in terms of the metallurgy, which we have solved, but we didn't realize that this was reflecting the big gold system that was at depth. So these were really, really positive indicators that led Dave to say, yeah, we got to drill this, Paul, we got to drill this. And sure enough, we have drilled down into this, and I'll show you in a sec. We've drilled down below this vanadium area, and I'm going to show you. Actually, we've some of this. Yeah, I should step back. The IP is one thing that we did after we drilled the holes. We needed to drill the holes to determine what the stratigraphy was, and that was exciting. And also all the features, all the elements like collapse breccias and pathfinder metals, silicification, dolomitization, everything is in those drill holes to identify this big alteration system, this Carlin style alteration system with gold. And in a lot of these drill holes, the full length, half the length of these drill holes have anomalous gold in it. Small numbers, but throughout. So you know there was a big system there. And this, when we did the IP, we realized that this is indicating high amounts of sulfide that we drilled, actually, as it turned out, off to the side of where this plumbing system really is. This is the root system that we didn't know about until the IP was done. But you can see that's why we got such great looking rock. In Dave's view, he thought, "Wow, we got something here, boys. We do." And we got a fair amount of sulfides too, but obviously this is the heart of the system, and it's big. This is like 3/4 kilometer wide, and it's so far in the IP, it's showing that it's at least 1 kilometer long, and it's open-ended. We're going to be doing more IP on that. So I'm going to move to the next slide to kind of show the gold model. So this is the same IP, one of the same IP cross sections, but this is now the geological cross section. That's really, really interesting. So the reason why this hasn't been found before is this overlying unit, which is exactly the same overlying unit that's up at Gold Quarry and Gold Strike. It basically covers or blinds the deposits. This is the lower plate rocks here, the Rodeo Creek and Popovich, that we've found, and again the same stratigraphy at Gold Quarry and Gold Strike. So now we're interpreting this big chargeability anomaly, which is indicating stronger sulfides than what we've hit, as the drill target. So you can see we've got a whopping anomaly here, and we just need to drill angle off of these holes that we had already drilled into the system and pick up see what's in the system. We could get killer holes here in this next 4 holes that we're planning on drilling. So very, very exciting opportunity. This is a look down at the anomaly. We've done 3 lines of IP so far. We got chased out because of weather, and we're going to continue those lines to the south and to the north. But you can see this is the big anomaly, the big root system, and you can see it continuing to the south here. And this is where those gold intercepts are, or gold exposures are on surface. So we know that this doesn't. It looks like it might be weakening, but it's certainly very, very much alive here. And these holes here didn't get deep enough to test these hole 2, 3, and 4. We ended up abandoning just into the Rodeo Creek. So this doesn't really test the depths that we really wanted to go to. So big system, open-ended, untested by drilling, and that's where we're going to, and we're planning on resuming our drilling in May.
You'll do the IP and then do the drilling hole?
Well, we've already got, it's important. I mean, drills are so hard to come by. We've committed to getting a drill, and we will. It's obvious from the IP that we have already that
right.
We can do 4 holes without any doubt. So the IP is going to come in probably fairly close to around the time when we start the drill. So it just means that there's going to be a bigger target that we'll be going after.
Okay.
Just the timing of it. When you get a hold of a rig, you got to hold on to it.
So it'll probably be like a split drill phase where you'll probably add some holes once the IP gets extended.
That's right. And we also have this other property here, this AVP property, which is in the Battle Mountain Eureka Trend here. This is the property that Dave had picked up. He'd been watching it since the 80s because there was some good drilling there by Kennecott. They had a good hole near surface, 17 meters or 55 feet of half a gram, which is and near surface. So that's basically ore grade in Nevada these days. It's shallow. It's in the right carbonate rocks that are prolific throughout this trend. And Dave didn't want to give this up. He staked this about 5 or 6, 7 years ago actually, and wanted to keep it and drill it himself, but convinced him to roll this into first Vanadium because he liked the way we were working together and our progress and our approach in the vehicle that we have. And so we will drill that as well. So, but it'll be a smaller program, like maybe $100,000 drill program, 5 holes to start with that'll be maybe 600-foot holes. To see what we get. So we can actually drill Carlin, and then if we need a bit of a break to get some assays, we can always move it down to AVP for a 10-day period and then bring it back up to Carlin.
Right.
So we're going to have a lot of really good news flow through April, May, June, July. So it's going to be a very, very interesting time for us.
I know you're at the moment unannounced placement, about to be announced placement. Yeah. I think you were looking at about 5 million. I know you're probably getting close. I know you're getting close to that already. So what does 5 million get us as shareholders? I mean, what can you get done with that?
Well, obviously we put a lot into the ground. We're cautious of spending. Our burn rate is only like about 40,000 a month. And so most of it's going to go into the ground. With say $5 million, we would be getting probably 4 or 4.5 million in the ground. That'll give us potentially 15 to 20 holes.
Okay.
Plus drilling on AVP. So, it's a vectoring process. We have a really good with that IP and the root system. I think this next first holes are going to be really, really interesting, and hoping to get an ore grade intercept in one of those holes, obviously, and then we then focus more drilling in that area. But we've got a long this IP anomaly or the root system could be 1.5 to 2 kilometers long. So we could have to, take real large step outs at say 400 meters to really get a feel for the system itself and where the guts of the better grades are.
Right.
And then focus drilling in the better areas. And there's a lot of really, really positive geological things with brecciation and pathfinder metals that will help guide us in the alteration itself. So, and Dave's an expert. He just knows how to use this stuff very, very well to vector in.
Yeah, and Dave mentioned when I was on the phone with Dave yesterday, he mentioned that he's very much a core guy, which I am too. But I mean, that said, given the whole depth and that you're kind of prospecting with a drill, the RC is better. One, it's just a lot faster, but it's also a lot cheaper, obviously. But yeah, the comment from Dave yesterday was that if it seems obvious to him that you really actually zeroed in on our mineralized center, then you bring the core rig in and you can really give people some, here's a section, here's all the lithology, here's the zones, you can see it all in the core. But start off with RC and use the core once you kind of zeroed in.
Right. And I think that it's probably reasonable to expect that the 900 feet or the 300 meters of Woodruff is not really necessary to drill by core. So we could RC that down and then core from there. So that's the valuable, hopefully the pay rock.
Okay. I think that, that pretty much covers it. I mean, good structure. It's not, by today's standards, it's not particularly high market cap. I think all of you guys realize, Nevada is kind of its own thing. So if you actually, if you make any kind of a Carlin-ish discovery, it doesn't have to be like 100 meters of 10 grams. I mean, you hit a good hole in one of these systems, the market's definitely going to pay attention because there's a lot of traders pay a lot of attention to Nevada, and there's some traders that trade it exclusively, actually. As I mentioned, I know I talked to Paul a couple of times earlier this week. I talked to Dave yesterday. Paul has been kind of putting the feelers out. So most of this placement as of today, I believe, is spoken for. But I guess we've got. I mean, what kind of timing are we looking at for response time? I mean, when do you need to hear back from people?
Well, there's a little bit of room. We've got some outstanding phone calls, and people are showing some interest there. So with the right type of investor, we can make a little bit of room. Maybe in the next Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try. I'm hopefully going to get this out to insiders this weekend. I'll pass it along to Grace as soon as we're done here. But I mean, there you go, folks. Straight up drill spec. There is a secondary project, and I believe there's a copper project floating around somewhere too.
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. It's actually quite interesting, and we've held that one because we really like it. It's only 2.5 miles south of Jerome, or the in Arizona, 2.5 miles from the United Verde past producing mine of 30 million tons of 4.5% copper.
Right.
And we've got very interesting. We've got the right rocks. We've got an EM and a gravity anomaly, a coincident. And so we're going to just tidy up that with a gravity survey in June, is when it's planned, and then that could be a drill target as well, or option it or spin it into a copper company. So that's very, very intriguing as well.
What's the situation permitting wise in Arizona? Like, is it Forest Service or is it BLM?
It is in Forest Service, which obviously gives you some kind of grief, but
yeah.
We have you have to work with them.
Right.
There is a road or trail into where we want to drill.
Right.
So we would just have to upgrade it because it just needs to be cleaned up. So that's what our gives us a great advantage to at least get into the area, try and pop a hole in or a couple of holes in there to either make a huge discovery or not. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a slideshow. I mean, obviously the Carlin project is obviously the main event here. So there you have it, folks. Pretty simple, straight up drill spec. I think pretty good pricing. I like that. I like that they're doing a big enough raise that Dave should have enough budget for 8 or 10 or 12 or something holes. So that, which I think is what you want to be doing in this kind of situation. You don't really want to go down and do 2 drill holes. You want to be doing 10 drill holes because it is blind after all. But yeah, I like the look of it. There you go. I'll send this off to you. You guys decide what you want to do. I'm buying some of it. Obviously, that's why you're seeing this, since that's how this surface works. But I just wanted to thank you, Paul, for coming by and giving us a walkthrough. And thanks again for Dave. Dave and I were on the phone for probably an hour yesterday, and it was quite helpful to get his walkthrough. But yeah, it looks no guarantees, but it's a really nice target, and it's a big target. That's the other thing I like. It's got scale. So if there's something there, it could actually be significant size.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Eric.
No problem.